Once upon a time, in a small, peaceful village, by the edge of a great forest, there lived a young girl named Maya. Maya was 12 years old, with bright, curious eyes and a heart full of hope. She lived with her grandmother, Amma, in a little cottage covered in ivy. Maya's parents had passed away when she was a baby, and Amma raised her with all the love and care she could give. Every morning, Maya would help Amma fetch water from the well, feed their chickens, and sweep the front porch until it gleamed in the sunlight. One day, as Maya was gathering wildflowers for Amma, she noticed a small bird lying on the ground. Its wing was bent at an odd angle, and it chirped weakly. Maya's heart ached to see the bird in pain. Gently, she cupped it in her hands and carried it back to the cottage. Amma was sitting by the hearth, knitting a woolen scarf. When Maya showed her the bird, Amma's eyes grew soft. "Poor little thing," Amma whispered. "We will care for it." For the next several days, Maya made a tiny splint from a twig and wrapped the bird's wing in soft cloth. She fed it crushed grains and dropped water on its beak. Every evening, she sang a gentle lullaby she had learned as a baby. Slowly, the bird began to grow stronger. One morning, Maya woke to find the bird flapping its wings and standing on the windowsill. Its eyes shone, and it chirped as if to say, "Thank you." Maya opened her hands, and the bird took flight, soaring high above the village and disappearing into the bright blue sky. Maya felt a warmth in her chest, a feeling of deep joy. That afternoon, an old traveler arrived at their door. He wore a tattered cloak and carried a heavy sack. His face was lined with exhaustion. He asked for a glass of water and a bite of bread. Maya and Amma welcomed him inside and offered him their supper of lentil stew and fresh bread. The traveler ate gratefully, then looked at Maya. "You have a kind heart," he said. "May good fortune follow you always." The next morning, the traveler left quietly. Maya waved until he vanished among the trees. She did not know then that kindness, like a pebble thrown into a pond, sends ripples farther than we ever see. Months passed. One spring day, a terrible storm swept through the valley. Wind howled all night, and rain pounded the rooftops. At dawn, Maya and Amma climbed to the roof to repair a broken tile. Below them, the garden was flooded. The narrow path to the well was washed away. The chickens huddled in their coop, frightened. That afternoon, a merchant from the neighboring town came, riding through on his mule. His cart was filled with goods he had meant to sell at market: silks, spices, and pottery. But the road was blocked by fallen trees and mud. The merchant dismounted and tried to clear a path, but the earth was too soft. Maya saw him struggling and ran down the hill. She fetched a sturdy rope from their storeroom and, with the merchant's help, tied it to his mule. Together, they pulled the cart to firmer ground. The merchant wiped his brow and handed Maya a small silver coin. "Thank you, child," he said. "You have saved my livelihood." Maya shook her head. "I only did what I could." The merchant pressed the coin into her palm. "For your kindness." Later that day, Amma counted their savings. She sighed. "We have barely enough for food until harvest. Perhaps that coin will help us." Maya placed the coin in a small wooden box above the fireplace. "It will help." The weeks that followed were hard. The flood had ruined their crops, and the well was still broken. Every day, Maya walked farther into the forest to find clean water in a hidden spring. She carried heavy jars back to the cottage, her arms trembling, yet she never complained. Amma watched her with pride and worry. One evening, as Maya returned from the spring, she heard soft sobs near the path. Hiding behind a tree, she saw a boy crouched on a rock, his shoulders shaking. He was no older than Maya, with dark hair and tears on his cheeks. Maya stepped forward gently. "Are you all right?" she asked softly. The boy looked up, startled. He had been collecting mushrooms for his sick mother, but a branch had fallen and cut his hand. He had run away in fear. Maya led him to the cottage and cleaned his wound. She bandaged it tightly and gave him a bowl of warm porridge. The boy ate hungrily, then looked at Maya. "Thank you," he whispered. "I thought I was alone." "Kindness is never wasted," said Amma, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. The boy's name was Rohan. He and his mother lived in a small hut deeper in the forest. His mother was ill, and he had been gathering food alone. Maya invited them to stay until the mother grew stronger. Days turned into weeks, and soon Rohan's mother could cook a simple soup again. In gratitude, she wove a beautiful cloth from wild fibers and gifted it to Amma. The cloth had soft, earth-toned colors and felt like a warm embrace. One bright morning, as Maya and Rohan played by the riverbank, they saw a stranger on the far shore. He was tall and carried a long staff. As he approached, they recognized him as the traveler who had once stayed with them. He smiled when he saw Maya. "I come bearing news," he said. "The king's palace has heard of your kindness. They seek someone with a gentle heart and brave spirit to care for the royal gardens." Maya's eyes widened. The royal gardens were famous across the land for their rare flowers and healing herbs. The position came with a good home, food, and a modest stipend. It was an honor. "But why me?" Maya asked in disbelief. "You saved a helpless bird," replied the traveler. "You helped a struggling merchant. You aided a wounded child and cared for his mother. Your kindness has opened doors you never imagined." Amma embraced Maya, tears in her eyes. "Your kindness has carried you this far, my child." That week, Maya traveled to the palace with the traveler. She walked through vast marble halls, adorned with tapestries and paintings. At the garden gate, a group of gardeners bowed as she passed. The royal gardener, an elderly man named Hari, welcomed her. "I have heard of your gentle touch," he said. "Together we will tend these gardens. You will learn the secrets of each plant." Maya spent her days planting seeds, pruning roses, and gathering medicinal herbs. She worked with joy, humming Amma's lullaby as she toiled. The sun shone bright, but Maya hardly felt the heat. Her heart was light. One afternoon, the young prince wandered into the garden. He was curious and shy. He watched Maya as she knelt in the soil. When she looked up, their eyes met. "What are you doing?" he asked softly. "I am planting lavender," Maya replied. "It brings peace to troubled hearts." The prince knelt beside her. "My mother is ill," he said. "She has grown weak and will not eat." Maya's heart filled with concern. She remembered the herbs she had learned about. "There is a tea made from chamomile and lemon balm," she said. "It soothes the spirit and eases the heart. I can prepare some for her." The prince's eyes brightened. "Please do. I will fetch the ingredients." Together, they gathered the flowers. Maya dried them in a small basket, then boiled water in a copper kettle. She whispered a blessing over the herbs as they steeped. Soon a fragrant steam filled the air. The prince carried the teacup to his mother's chamber. That evening, the queen sipped the tea and smiled for the first time in many days. The next morning, word spread through the palace. The queen felt stronger. She descended into the garden and found Maya standing amid the flowers. She knelt and placed a gentle hand on Maya's shoulder. "Your kindness has healed more than my body," the queen said. "It has warmed my soul." Maya bowed, tears of joy in her eyes. The queen rose and embraced her. "You shall remain in the palace gardens as my daughter's friend and my personal gardener of healing herbs." Years passed. Maya grew into a certain wise and graceful young woman. Rohan came to live at the palace too, as the royal gardener's apprentice. Together, they tended the flowers, and cared for the plants that healed the sick and comforted the sad. Amma often visited, bringing fresh bread and laughter. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Prince Raj invited Maya and Rohan to a celebration. The palace courtyard was filled with lanterns and flower garlands. The queen declared that kindness and compassion were the greatest gifts anyone could share. She raised a glass of lavender tea in a toast to Maya, whose simple acts of kindness healed many. To Rohan, whose bravery saved his mother. May their story remind us all that a gentle heart can change the world. Maya looked around at the faces filled with gratitude and love. She thought of the wounded bird, the weary merchant, the frightened boy, and her dear Amma. She realized that every small kindness she had offered had come back to her in ways she could never have imagined. And so, the moral of Maya's story is this: true kindness, given without expectation, creates a rippling effect of compassion. In helping others, we often find our own hearts healed and our lives enriched in ways beyond measure.